So, what's the deal with Tesla's Robotaxi project? Depending on who you ask, it's either this unstoppable force moving at lightning speed, or it's a complete train wreck that's just hopelessly behind schedule. So, which one is it? The truth is, both of those stories might actually be correct. Let's break down exactly how that's even possible.
Here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll dive right into that central paradox. Then, we'll look at all the evidence for the slow argument and then the fast one. After that, we'll see how those two ideas actually combine into one single strategy. And finally, I'm going to give you the exact signals to watch for so you can see for yourself what's coming next.
You've got one story that's all about missed targets and a really frustrating experience for anyone trying to use the service. But then there's this other story about unprecedented acceleration and a super methodical plan. How on earth can both of these narratives be true at the exact same time? Well, let's find out.
To really get this, we have to start with the on-the-ground reality. I mean, what does it actually feel like to use this service as a real person right now? And how does that personal experience square up with the company's massive long-term vision? Okay, take the recent experience of a user in Austin, a guy named Nick. After hours of just impossible wait times, he basically found the service was unusable, unless you were a diehard Tesla enthusiast willing to put up with it. This one story right here captures the core frustration that's really fueling that whole painfully slow narrative. Right, so let's build on that feeling of frustration. The case for things being slow isn't just a few bad stories. It's actually backed by some pretty key observations that suggest the project might be falling behind. Look, the user experience just clearly isn't ready for prime time. You've got these crazy long waits in Austin. There are only a tiny handful of cars operating without a safety driver. And those safety drivers, they're still stuck in California, way longer than anyone expected. But maybe most importantly, the fleet just isn't doubling every month like Elon had once guided. This is the core evidence right here for the slow argument. But what if looking at the current speed is the completely wrong way to measure progress? The case for things being fast argues that we should be looking at the rate of change, the acceleration, and a really well-known model for how new technology actually develops. To really get the fast argument, you have to understand something called the S-curve. It's a model that shows how new tech gets adopted. At first, progress seems agonizingly slow. That's the flat part at the bottom, the grind phase. But then it hits this inflection point and bam, growth goes vertical. The argument here is that Tesla is right at that bend. Just think about this for a second. Only 8 months ago, there were zero. Zilch. Today, there are nearly 400 robotaxis on the road. Now, that total number might seem small, but the growth from a complete standstill, that is anything but slow. And check this out. Look where they're getting ready to go next. Tesla is actively hiring robotaxi managers in 12 different cities. That suggests the operational groundwork is being laid for a much, much wider rollout than what we can actually see today. So here's the crucial point. If you want to know who's going to win a race, you don't just look at their current speed, right? You look at their acceleration. And when you compare them to competitors like Waymo, Tesla reached this stage of deployment in a fraction of the time. That suggests a much steeper growth curve is just around the corner. Okay, so how do we resolve this thing? How can the rollout be both painfully slow and blazingly fast? Well, what if it's not a contradiction at all, but a deliberate strategy? This quote just perfectly captures the whole idea of that S-curve ramp. The initial phase is all about methodically, carefully working through all the problems. It feels slow because the goal isn't speed. The goal is preparing for an absolute explosion of growth. And here is that strategy in action. Step 1, identify every single bottleneck. Software, operations, production, you name it. Step 2, solve them one by one. And only when you have full visibility into the entire system, only then do you flip the giant switch for mass production. And, this isn't just a theory. Tesla learned a really painful lesson with the Cybertruck production ramp. Trying to ramp up a factory before all the bottlenecks are solved means you are, in Elon Musk's own words, lighting money on fire. The perceived slowness of this robotaxi rollout is a direct attempt to not repeat that same mistake. Okay, so if this whole slow then fast strategy is for real, what should we be looking for? Let's get really specific. Here are the signals that will tell you if the plan is actually working or if it's falling apart. Forget the headlines and the noise. We need tangible metrics we can actually track. I'll break them down for you into 2 simple categories: Bearish signals, things to worry about, and bullish ones.
Here it is. This is your scorecard for the next 2 years. The bearish signals, the red flags, would be any serious accidents that are Tesla's fault, or missing key deadlines, like not having a Cybercab service running, or failing to reach 100 unsupervised cars. The bullish signals? Continued hiring in new cities, smooth production, and the big one, seeing those Cybercabs stockpiled in warehouses ready to be unleashed on new markets.
Finally, there's one massive wildcard in all of this: regulation. A federal framework for autonomous vehicles is actually being debated right now. If a bill like the Self-Drive Act passes, it could create a nationwide green light for deployment, and that would be a huge accelerator for whichever company is truly ready to scale up. And so we come all the way back to our central question. Is this whole project just stuck in first gear, or are we in the quiet, final moments of a methodical countdown, just seconds away from a massive launch? The evidence, as you've seen, points both ways. But now you know exactly what signals to watch to find the answer for yourself.